Welcome in to another episode of Betting the Pitch. I feel like I've been doing one every day this week, but doing it for the people, and I like what I'm doing. So thanks for coming. I'm the real_G Warner on Twitter. Would love for, if you're listening on YouTube, for you to hit subscribe, or on Spotify to give me a 5-star review. Same thing on Apple Podcasts, which is I expect most of you are there. It's kind of why I said it last. Or if you're watching on Twitter, retweet, quote tweet, slide in my DMs. I'm available. So if you got something to say, I will try to make sure I get to it as soon as possible. Today, we're going to go through the top 5 European soccer leagues. We have a bunch of Friday action. It's a little bit earlier than I normally do this on Fridays, but was up for work, and it's might as well get through it and give you all some winners. So without further ado, I'll start in the Premier League. Going to go through, pick a best bet from each of the countries that I cover, top 5 European soccer leagues, and then also an ultimate best bet end of show. We'll start with Brentford hosting Brighton. Currently, Brentford a quarter goal underdog at home, and they've had a really good crowd this year, or have been known for having one ever since they've been in the Premier League as of one season ago. The problem is they have not been able to do a lot offensively, and their defense has not been as good this year. I don't know if that's because the scouting report is out and people know how to play them, because I don't think that there's questions about their analytics department or their manager, which has stayed and remained. I think it's more that Brentford just really haven't been producing very much, and it kind of feels like a sophomore slump type of season, which you see a lot from newly promoted sides into the big leagues that end up sticking around and then having troubles their second year. Brentford hasn't done a ton to splash their team, and really had a really poor middle of the season last year until Christian Eriksen was brought in, and then he provided quite a spark in their center midfield, an attacking version, or attacking spark. He's not there anymore at Manchester United, and I feel like Brentford's been missing him quite a bit. I do like them as a home underdog, but Brighton have been one of the best teams in the Premier League despite switching managers. We're still seeing a lot of the effects of Graham Potter, even though he's moved on to Chelsea. Roberto De Zerbi is going to be a really aggressive attacking manager, which I feel like almost fits this setup here pretty well, because Brentford aren't exactly a front-footed type of team. I like the home dog getting a quarter, but I'm not sure that there's enough there for me to play it right now based on how Brentford have been performing. And seeing 2.5 as the over under, it feels a little bit high for these two teams. But I'm still kind of wondering when Roberto De Zerbi is going to actually become the guy he was at Sassuolo or at Shakhtar Donetsk, and ultimately just play on the front foot and really leave all defense on the back burner and not really worry about it. Haven't seen it yet, and there's certainly no reason to mess with success that Brighton are having so far. But I do feel like that's coming sooner rather than later. Next, we'll move to Saturday. We have Leicester hosting Crystal Palace as the first matchup. Leicester, a quarter goal favorite at home. And what have they really done to be a favorite this year? Not a lot. They had one good performance, one win, which could have been very different if Nottingham Forest had taken an early lead. Instead, Taiwo Awoniyi hit the post, and looks like he's being frozen out of that team, which to me is absolutely insane. But this is a Leicester talk. So currently a quarter goal favorite hosting Crystal Palace, who have major, massive home and road splits. Crystal Palace, a great home team with a great crowd behind them that pull off some really good results that you wouldn't expect there. On the road, they're not the same team. They really struggle to score goals. I feel like they do that at home as well. But just finishing last weekend's match, they were pretty fortunate after going behind 1-0 and getting dominated early. The crowd kind of took a foothold, or gave them a foothold in the match. They equalized and then scored a late goal on a great fake from Eze in their center midfield. And being a Leeds backer last weekend was not easy to handle that one, I gotta say. But Crystal Palace, they seem to do that at home. Now they're on the road here. The nice part is that they're facing a Leicester City team that are really shambolic all across the pitch. Their defense is really problematic. Their offense has been good, but not great, considering it can't really overcome their defensive frailties. There's a lot of questions about Brandon Rodgers and his job and whether he's going to stick around. I think from where I sit, it seems like he's in the job for good for now. They had a 1-0 lead and coughed that up against Bournemouth last weekend. But I think they've had big financial troubles, that they've had to sell off some good players. I think more will be happening in January. with Madison and Tielemans is potentially. But for where I sit right now, I'm very interested in playing against Leicester. I don't love playing Crystal Palace on the road, but I do think that they can go get a draw at Leicester, could win that match certainly. So I like that quarter on Crystal Palace and the early one on Saturday. Wolves then host Nottingham Forest in the, I guess, 9 a.m. window here, Central Time in Dallas, Texas. Wolves are a 3-quarter goal favorite based on an offense that we haven't seen for a year and a half, 2 years now, maybe longer. Nottingham Forest certainly are not a prom queen and are not easy to back. I'll say that. A single goal loss does only cost you half a unit. And I think there's a reasonable opportunity for them to go in and get a draw. Juice is pretty split right now, a little bit leaning towards the Wolves side. So maybe it hits +1, and that would be a big buy price for me at +1 compared to the 3/4. I do have concerns about Nottingham Forest. I do like their manager, but it seems like it's not been working so far, and they've really brought in just too many bodies. But Wolves have shown nothing offensively. I don't know anything about this new manager to believe that he's going to somehow change that, because it really hasn't happened. Even before Bruno Lage showed up with a Nuno Espirito Santo, same kind of story. So I like Nottingham Forest getting 3/4 of a goal. Fulham then hosts Bournemouth. Fulham a half a goal favorite, coming off a ridiculously officiated match. I mean, what a joke penalty that was offered to West Ham. Then a handball for a goal to take the lead and ultimately win the match. And I mean, just I'm Marco Silva, the Fulham manager, like shocking that he didn't get sent off. I would have been in the stands, like probably in the 25th minute, and he somehow stayed on the pitch the whole match and only got a yellow card for dissent. Ridiculous. But Fulham now probably should be pretty pissed about that and should be in I mean, especially after taking a red, I think 2 matches ago, they've been not having the same type of success lately, to say the least. Bournemouth, on the other hand, have been a covering machine ever since their 9-0 loss to Liverpool, which I think was surrounded by some big losses, heavy defeats, the best teams in the league. I mean, not a surprise for a recently promoted side. But Bournemouth, they've been awesome. It's really hard to not want to back them every time they play, because I think they're undefeated since that really bad Liverpool loss, and they changed managers after Scotty Parker told the management staff how incompetent they were, essentially, on a public microphone. But where Fulham give half of a goal here doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, they scored a goal off a beautiful shot from Pereira early in their match at West Ham, but I don't know that I've seen a lot from them offensively, and I don't know about Mitrovic's status. Without him, their offense looked very quiet, pedestrian, if you will. I still think a +1 bet last weekend deserved to cash, or at least push at the very least. Of course, home refs sometimes have other ideas. But Bournemouth, they're going to play a conservative style. They want to counterattack, which I think fits a road game here. I just don't really see a big difference between the two newly promoted sides, though Fulham were clearly a really good team last year and thrashing the championship to get promoted and win that league. But I like Bournemouth getting a half. Tottenham then hosts Everton, a 1-goal favorite with all the juice. This has come down from 1.25. And I think it speaks to Tottenham's struggles. They have been a team that doesn't really want the ball. I mean, nothing's changed. That's been who they've been for a while now, but ultimately they are a big favorite all the time. They got did a ton of business over the summer and got a lot of respect from people backing them to win the Premier League. They have not been the closest North London located team to be in that debate. That certainly is Arsenal so far. And when I think about Everton, I know they're going to give a good defensive effort. They don't have much offensively, so they have to make up. And really, they're staying in the league or trying to, based on a defensive strength that I think has been really impressive under Frank Lampard, who wasn't really expected to do that sort of thing. With that full goal of insurance, it's very interesting to me, especially catching odds right now. Likely will, I think, close 1.25 by the time this one kicks off. But Tottenham are just a team that seem like Harry Kane will find his goals from literally right in front of the goal, like Ali Moreno range, if you watch ESPN at all. And I just feel like that's not really the best way to win matches, nor to really cover spreads when you have to win by multiple goals. I don't really see a lot of offense coming from Tottenham. I think it probably will work very well against the top of the league, but they haven't really had those opportunities just yet. Maybe Conte will look like a genius then, but they had a good win considering they'd lost a fitness trainer, I think unexpectedly, but before the last match. But from where I sit, Everton +1 is where I'm leaning, especially as I think it'll climb to 1.25. Moving to Sunday, Aston Villa hosting Chelsea. Currently, Villa a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice -122 right now. Chelsea, they're playing midweek. They're kind of getting through those matches and have kind of turned around a really poor start to the Champions League. And almost you could say the same thing about the Premier League as well. Aston Villa on the other side aren't really much of an offense. They're not playing a defense that they want to because their big signing got from Sevilla, got hurt, and ripped his Achilles, and is done for the season. I think from an Aston Villa goal scoring point of view, I mean, starting Emi Buendia and Ollie Watkins last weekend together as potentially strike partners, that was a very scary thing to see as a favorite. I don't really believe in Villa offensively whatsoever, which makes it hard to back them when you're not getting a full goal of insurance from one of the best teams in the world. I do like Villa at home. I think that's going to be a big, big important part for this matchup. I don't like the juices where it is right now, where they have all of it, because I feel like that +1 is very unlikely on Sunday morning. That's probably what I'm looking for if Aston Villa can get to that number. Leeds then host Arsenal. Leeds a 1-goal underdog at home. And they deserved a lot better than that result at Crystal Palace. But unfortunately, you get paid for results in betting and really in managing, coaching, all the soccer stuff. I don't know, just where you finish in a league table is based on results. I do worry that they're a 1-goal underdog at home to Arsenal. The crowd is nuts at Leeds and supposedly has some of the biggest crowd support / you could say home pitch advantage potentially in the Premier League, maybe even across Europe. The thing is, Arsenal are a much more talented team. They have much more coherent offense. And watching what they did really to Liverpool, just not even respecting Liverpool whatsoever, despite, the fancy nature, the high accolades that Liverpool have been getting recently. There was not a lot of respect for Mikel Arteta, or paid that Mikel Arteta was paying to Liverpool. I don't think he'll respect Leeds very much. And I don't know that counter pressing or really high pressure up the pitch type of strategy will work, because Arsenal have so much speed and so much pace, so much youth, certainly, and that leads to some problems. But I think ultimately that's what's gotten them to the top of the table so far this year, alongside a very easy schedule. But definitely that +1 at home with a big crowd is something I'm looking for on Leeds. But I need to think about this one a little bit more. Southampton then hosts West Ham. Southampton a 1/4 goal underdog. And I've been getting crushed going against West Ham recently, though I feel like I've deserved a lot better than I've gotten, I got to say, including an Anderlecht match that was back and forth. 1 goal in that one from Scamacca. West Ham fell behind and were getting controlled by Fulham early. Did probably play as a better side in that one, but had a lot of help from the refs. And I'm going to leave that one hopefully on this podcast right now. Southampton, on the other hand, have been playing some tough teams. The schedule has not been easy. They're going to play the same style they always do, which is a high line and some pressure, trying to create offense that way, because they don't have a lot in their team to do it as a result of their budget. And I think also some disappointing players that they thought would probably produce a lot more. West Ham, they're having to play multiple matches a week on a team that's not very strong. They've done a lot to add to their team offensively, but I haven't really seen much. There's still try to get set pieces. If you get a ridiculous penalty, I said I was going to stop with the refs, so I'll leave that one behind. But a penalty and then just bundling in goals from a lead striker that just makes a big individual play, I don't think that's something we can rely upon too often. So I lean to Southampton getting a 1/4 at home. So they have all the juice, and this one looks like it's heading down to Pick'em. Manchester United then host Newcastle. Manchester United a 1/2 goal favorite. And I'm still not a believer in that team, I got to say. I don't really know what it's going to take for them to really make me think that they're a capable side, at least not to the level that their expectations are, especially in the marketplace, because they always get bet far more than they should. Newcastle have been great. I think getting Callum Wilson healthy is an important thing. We'll see how long that can stay that way. But ultimately, I love what I've seen from them so far defensively, and I trust them to continue to do that. So getting 1/2 a goal, even on the road at Old Trafford, is a good number for me, and I think I'll probably play it. Liverpool then hosts Manchester City in what was the biggest match of the Premier League season. Currently, Liverpool a 1/2 goal underdog at home, which is quite a big change from what we were expecting earlier in this year, considering they were a quarter goal underdog on a neutral in the Community Shield and won that one right before the season started. But Liverpool have been bad. They've been dealing with injuries. They haven't been as deep as you'd think from a squad that spent a ton of money on Darwin Nunez, who really hasn't fit in their team very well. And I'm starting to wonder how long Jurgen Klopp's going to be there, because he seems really frustrated, or at least the results will make him feel that way. Man City, on the other hand, are rolling really hard. I mean, they seem to not have had too difficult of a schedule so far, so that's maybe helped, though thrashing their crosstown rival Manchester United made it seem like their schedule was easier than it probably was. At least not in terms of budgets and things of that nature. I think from where I sit in this one, it's Liverpool or nothing, and I can't trust them at all. So I think I'll skip that one. So going back through England for the best bets on this episode, I do lean Brentford, but I don't know that I like them enough. I like Crystal Palace, certainly like Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth. Everton a little bit, especially if it climbs a little bit more. Aston Villa, I think I want a +1 to fade Chelsea here. Leeds, I like at +1. Southampton, I don't mind a quarter. Man, I like everything. Newcastle, I also like getting a half, and then I can happily avoid Liverpool in this one. For my best bet in England, I'm going to go with Bournemouth getting a half of a goal at Fulham. I feel like they've been the strongest team, certainly based on expectations for a long time now, and I trust them quite a bit. And they've been very, very generous to my wallet. Moving to Spain now. On Friday, we have Rayo Vallecano hosting Getafe. Rayo, a half a goal favor right now with all the juice on the road team Getafe. Maybe this falls back down to a quarter where it was earlier in the week. Rayo are a counterattacking, use a really small pitch to kind of suck your opponent in and then run the other way as fast as you can and find one of their short guys to net one from the top of the box, or just in an imbalanced type of counterattacking style. Getafe are a very good defensive side that want to play really physical football. I don't love that because they are a big red card risk, especially on the road. I think from where I look at them, I'm into Getafe here getting a half of a goal. I don't think Rayo deserve, especially how bad they were the second half of last season. They essentially were in the European discussion because they played the worst teams in the league all at home in the first half of last year and got off to a great start. Life has not been so easy since then. I like Getafe getting a half, but I do worry where goals come from in this Getafe team, or really in this match in general. The over under of 2 is pretty short, but I lean under there as well, though my unders have been getting either demolished or just screwed right at the end. So I might be doing those a little bit less moving forward. Girona then hosting Cadiz. Currently Girona a half a goal favorite on Saturday, early one. Cadiz have, from a 1-0 good position, thanks to a really bad mistake by a goalkeeper for Espanyol last weekend. Still lost the match. In big trouble. Sergio Gonzalez looks like if he's not out soon, it's coming. Girona, on the other hand, I don't know how you trust them to score goals. They had a really good showing last weekend, if I remember correctly, but I'm not sure they can really repeat that too frequently. Cadiz, getting a half of a goal, I think it's too big for Girona to lay to another team that's fighting relegation in the La Liga. But ultimately, Cadiz have big problems. And both these teams, I don't know how they score. Over under 2 again in this one, like under there. But seemed to me like a lot of goals come out of the woodwork whenever I play an under. Valencia then hosts Elche, and Valencia currently a 1.25 goal favorite. Elche, not a team I really want to back. I do like that they're trying to change around their center back rotation because their back line was pretty much just the slowest thing possible. Gargoyles were moving faster than Elche, and that's tough in a Spanish league where the ball moves really fast. There's really great passing and there's a lot of speed. Valencia have been looking a lot better lately. I think Gennaro Gattuso is a good manager for them, kind of rebuilding a project with a lot of younger players. I don't know that Enzo Cavani is that efficient now at his age, certainly trying to stay as lubed up as possible for the World Cup representing Uruguay. But over a goal, I like Elche. I'm just trying not to back them as much as I possibly can. I feel like if I like the under 2 3/4 better, that might mean a stronger lean toward Elche. But I don't know that I feel that right now. Mallorca then hosts Sevilla, currently a pick'em, with Mallorca getting bet now because Sevilla was a pretty big favorite on the pick'em line. They had all the juice and then some when I was looking at this earlier this week. Mallorca are going to play a really defensive way. I don't really trust them to score goals, I got to say, whatsoever. So was potentially looking to back Sevilla as an underdog, especially with the new manager Sampaoli in, because he's bringing in a style of play that you want, I think, as you're trying to rebuild a team that was really off to a terrible start, but also to bring some confidence. I think he will do that. Pick 'em, not much for me to do. Athletic Club then hosts Atletico Madrid, currently Athletic a quarter goal favorite at home. All the juice on Atleti on the road. Atleti had to play midweek. Athletic Club did not. San Mamés behind Athletic Club is a big deal. And ultimately, I've loved what I've seen from the Athletic Club offense so far this year. The Williams brothers are really teaming up, and Iñaki, the older of the two, is actually finishing. It's been a big problem for him over his career and certainly is not always solved, to say the least. But I was hoping to get Athletic Club maybe at a pick 'em here. Doesn't seem to be likely that that's going to occur. It's possible it moves down there, but I imagine the juice will still be pretty high. So probably not one for me to do with, as I really don't like Atleti. It does seem a little bit different of scenario for them, though, being underdog to a team not named Real Madrid or Barcelona on the road. But I don't know that I'm tempted that much by it, because Atleti is a huge red card risk, as I mentioned with Hetafe earlier. But also, I just don't really like them as a team. I feel like they are trying to do too many different things. Their squad is built a certain way, and Simeone wants another. And I don't think it's really jiving. And it's been pretty mediocre ever since they won La Liga a couple seasons ago. Moving to Sunday, Celta de Vigo hosting Real Sociedad, currently at Pick'em. Celta has all the juice right now. And I'm hoping they climb to a quarter goal favorite. I haven't liked what I've seen from Celta for a while now, I got to say. They did get a win against Betis, but Real Betis had basically been playing everyone in every position across all these different competitions, and I feel like that mattered a lot in that result. Real Sociedad also dealing with balancing things, but I feel like they've been doing a better job of it. Had a really professional victory, 1-0 against Villarreal last weekend. Not that they were that much better, but got a lead and held on to it. Maybe we're fortunate to do so, but still, I think from where I sit, Real Sociedad getting a quarter would be on my list, but they're not there just yet. Real Madrid then hosts Barcelona and El Clasico. Went through this in depth with Mackenzie Rivers, my partner on the European Soccer Podcast at pregame.com. Feel free to check that one out. It went pretty deep in that one. I don't really like Barcelona as a side. They're going through a crisis right now, which is like every week it seems like a new one. Real Madrid certainly don't ever seem like a team that's that flashy or that exciting, but they get the job done. They usually score 2 goals in the last 15 minutes of a match, including stoppage time. So from the 85th minute and on, it's ridiculous, and it kills me when I bet against them. But I think ultimately where I sit with this one, it's as an underdog player, it's ultimately there's not much for me to do besides back Barcelona here, and I don't really want to do it. Over under is 3. Don't really see a lot of value there either, as I think Real Madrid will keep this pretty tight, and Barcelona will ultimately leave themselves exposed because they're too proud of as a club. Espanyol then hosts Valladolid in what might be a little bit of a letdown after El Clasico, but Espanyol a quarter goal favorite at home, and I really do like Valladolid. Because they are a competent team that know who they are. They've got a lot of La Liga players, even though they dropped down to the Segunda División last season. Came back up, got a bunch of players back off of loan from other La Liga clubs that came back in and are playing in the same type of fashion, even under a new manager. Espanyol, on the other hand, have huge goalkeeping issues. I don't really know. I do like their manager, formerly of Granada, but he seems lost. Espanyol is doing their best to try to work in a bunch of new bodies. They had a lot of attrition last season, either with management falling out with players or players under contract that were running low that they just couldn't get re-signed. It was kind of bizarre to me. Specifically, Steven David Gomez leave, if I'm remembering that name correctly, to Girona. Their goalkeeper, though, the older one, formerly of Real Madrid, was in there, and he's gone. And the goalkeepers they replaced him with have been awful. Alvaro Fernandez. They've given him shots at Brentford, at one of the other smaller La Liga teams that were relegated, Huesca, a couple seasons ago, and he seems young and like the shorter guy, and so you're like, okay, he must be good if he's in there, but he has not been. And Espanyol brought in Lecomte, formerly of Monaco, and back up to Atletico Madrid after his job was essentially given away at Monaco, and he's looking about as shaky as you can be. So from where I sit, Valladolid, I really like getting a quarter. Real Betis then hosts Almeria. They're playing a ton of matches, had to play Roma. They've been rotating a fair amount under Pellegrini, which I respect them for doing, because I think you need to do that if you want to keep the team available and actually healthy. I do think with the World Cup, there's going to be a lot of fixture overload, and people are just going to be the managers are playing their best and hoping they can make it to November and then take that month off. Though a lot of those players might be going to the World Cup, and that kind of kills that idea. But anyway, Almeria have been a little bit tighter defensively ever since they sold Umar Sadiq, because they haven't been getting his goals, and that's been affecting their points tally, to say the least. They did play well last weekend, and I like them getting that full goal of insurance, though they have all the juice right now, might fall down to 3/4. On Monday, Villarreal, who've been really struggling, host Osasuna. Villarreal, a 1-goal favorite. And Osasuna, they had a great start to the year thanks to a lot of home matches and bad teams on their calendar, on their fixture list. I do like them getting a full goal of insurance from a Villarreal side that haven't been able to score for a long time in La Liga. They had similar problems last year. Unai Emery's a defensive god, it seems like, especially against the better clubs, but they haven't had the toughest schedule, and they've not really producing and getting points after a really great start to the season. Both of these teams basically started off real hot and have gotten really cool since, but one has to win by a full goal. Villarreal don't play in their home stadium. They're playing in their rivals' arena while they're getting theirs remodeled. And that's been a big problem, I feel like, for them this season. They've been flying in the Europa Conference League, but that's playing teams that are far inferior to Villarreal. And from where I sit, Osasuna seemed like +1 seemed like a good measured play. So going for the best bet to join Bournemouth getting a half of a goal in the Premier League. Looking at Spain, I do like Getafe getting a half a goal today. Cadiz getting a half. I mean, it's hard to look away from that car crash, but I do like the half. Elche getting 1.25 is on the list, but not that strongly on there. Nothing with Sevilla match, or probably not Atletico Madrid, though I do understand if you're buying low, you might like that one. Real Sociedad, if they move to a quarter, I like that one a lot more. Barcelona, I don't think will make my list. I do like Real Valladolid quite a bit, getting a quarter, as well as Almeria +1 and Osasuna +1. I'll pick Real Valladolid as my best bet for Spain. From here, we'll go to the Italian Serie A. And we have Empoli leading us off on Saturday, so no Friday match. Empoli a pick'em right now with all the juice. Currently I guess it's hard to really say where I feel like Empoli are. They were a really good offense a couple seasons that they've played in Serie A so far. I'm not sure that it's that strong this year. They've lost a lot of players to being bought by other clubs or returning on loan places. Monza, on the other hand, seeing them at a pick'em here on the road, they've been getting a lot of respect lately. The line's been very strong. Whether that's deserved, I'm not so sure, but they've been killing it. At least the marketplaces believe that they would. And seeing them basically, I mean, a slight underdog. Maybe this will climb to a quarter. Certainly, some more money has been coming in on Empoli to push this number here. I guess it's trending towards Monza getting a quarter, and I'll be looking at them if that hits there. But currently not just yet. And but I am trying to keep notice of teams that the marketplace seems to be backing a little more than I would expect. Speaking of that, they're either backing Torino or more betting against Juventus. Ultimately, Torino a pick'em right here. All the juice on Juve on the road, and likely will climb to a quarter of a goal before this kicks off. Big Torino derby, big rivalry matchup. Certainly the little brother Torino against Juve, who probably see Inter Milan as their biggest rival. But this line says quite a bit, considering how much better Juventus are as a team than Torino. But ultimately, Juve have had a really tough year. There's been a lot of rumors about Allegri, their manager, getting sacked. Hasn't happened just yet from what I'm aware of. But Torino under Juric, they're going to try to control the ball and have it, which is going to leave themselves open to Juventus counterattacks. But based on the setup of how Juve play right now, their center midfield seems to be pretty banged up and not really a great creative avenue. And then Vlahovic and Milik, if they're playing as a strike partnership, the only way they really score goals is when they do. Those guys are not really going to run by, burn past you. Juan Cuadrado on the wings, a lot older. There's a lot of questions for me about how Juve can end up, I guess, exploiting Torino that want to be aggressive. And I think if Torino's going to be aggressive and hold the ball a lot, that's going to give them more opportunities to score. And I don't know that anyone trusts the Juve offense either. So another one where I feel like the marketplace is kind of showing their hand a little bit with Torino here at Pick'em. despite getting a lot of odds. I think at a quarter, I like Torino more than I would have expected until I just reasoned that out for all of you. Atalanta then hosts Sassuolo in the nightcap on Saturday. Atalanta, a 3-quarter goal favorite with all the juice. They've been playing really well. Not having Europe has been a big boon to their success. I think Gasparini's been looking a lot calmer on the sideline. Things are going well when they aren't. He seems to lose it. And so that's helped. Sassuolo are going to be an aggressive offensive team. They're kind of in transition. I feel like they just bring in new players, sell off the good ones they have. They make some good signings. I really like the Loriente signing from FC Lorient in France. But I don't really know what I want to do with this one until Sassuolo hits +1. I think I'm not interested. And even then, I feel like Atalanta, they look scary enough. Their offense isn't firing as much as it had been in past seasons, but I think it's because they sold off a lot of talent. But they look good so far. Moving to Sunday, Inter Milan hosting Salernitana. Inter, a 1 3/4 goal favorite. Salernitana not getting a ton of respect for the market right now. This line keeps climbing every time I look at it. But Salernitana, they had a really good showing at Sampdoria, and then since then, I feel like they've been kind of all over the place. Inter Milan had a really poor run for about a month or so, but have turned it around and got some big results with Barcelona and also their game against Sassuolo last weekend. I don't know that I trust Inter's offense to score that many goals here, but I think at +2, I'm interested in Salernitana, but it's not there yet. Doesn't look like the juice will get them there, and ultimately fading Inter Milan has not been a great, really just betting Inter Milan games has not been great for me over the last couple of seasons. Lazio then hosts Udinese. Currently Lazio, a 1/4 goal favorite, coming off of a Monday big match at Fiorentina and then playing in Europe on Thursday. Question about their legs. Line seems a little short to me. I think we believe Lazio can score goals because that's what they do. Their defense has been a little bit better this year, but I think that's still the weak point on the team. Udinese brought in a new manager. We're as recently as last weekend, top of the table. They're certainly performing, and I really like to see that club because I like them a lot. I feel like they make really good buys and are really good at investing in players. I think for where I sit with Lazio, I don't know. I mean, at a quarter, it feels too cheap for me to want to back Udinese, but that's another situation where the market's given a lot of respect to a team that I think it's deserved it so far and is catching a team that might be a little bit tired, to say the least. So Udinese getting a quarter, I guess it's a little stronger of a lean than I thought. Spezia then hosts Cremonese. Spezia, a 1/4 goal favorite at home, but all the juice on Cremonese. Spezia not getting a lot of love lately. They've been kind of caught in between, I think. And says a lot that Cremonese, who's a newly promoted side that haven't looked very competitive, are only a quarter at Spezia with all the juice. It's not a good sign for Spezia. Market's kind of talking in Serie A, and I feel like it does that a lot, and usually it's right. So Cremonese might need to make it on my card, though they're certainly very expensive and pretty. You're buying pretty high on Cremonese, I'll say the least on that one. To say the least on that one. Napoli then hosts Bologna. Napoli, a 1 3/4 goal favorite. I mean, what a darling of the world right now. They're playing so well. It seems like a really big number. But Bologna, under the new manager, I feel like they want to play really offensively. They don't have a great offense, and that leaves them open at the back. Napoli can certainly exploit that and certainly seem kind of terrifying to me. 1 3/4 is a big number for Napoli, especially coming off Champions League. But I feel like they've been playing so well. It's really hard to want to get in the way until you see +2. More of the juice right now is on Bologna, so I don't even know if we'll get there. And even then, I'm not even sure I want that. Verona then hosts AC Milan. Currently, Verona, a 1-goal underdog at home. Market does not love Verona this year. Milan certainly having to play Chelsea back-to-back weeks. That's put them in a tough situation. But they had a good win last weekend against Juventus. But we spoke at length about that already, or I did, and because I'm the only one on this podcast. But it was not a great showing for Juve, and ultimately the market doesn't really respect them too much right now. So I'm not really sure what that says about Milan, but they're going to have some tired legs. They've been kind of seemingly losing bodies for each match that they've played most recently, not having really their full complement of attackers, to say the least. Defenders too. I mean, all across really the pitch. Mike Maignan has been a big absence for them, or absentee for them too. Verona, I think scoring goals is their problem. Their defense is not great, and that's scary. But getting that full goal of insurance at home is saying a lot. And I kind of like that number quite a bit at that +1. Sampdoria then hosts Roma on Monday. Sampdoria, a 3/4 goal underdog at home. Roma have been playing the same lineups essentially with a few changes over and over and over again. I feel like it's amazing to me that you're still seeing people involved. Zaniolo was suspended in Europa League this week, so that should mean he starts in this one and should have plenty of legs to run a Sampdoria team that probably is going to be very scared of him and just scared of anyone because their defense is not good. I don't know what number it would take for me to want to play Sampdoria here, I got to say. And last but not least, Lecce hosts Fiorentina, getting a quarter of a goal at home with all the juice on Fiorentina. So possible this one moves to a half of a goal. I do like Lecce quite a bit. I feel like they've been really competitive in Serie A. And as this one keeps climbing, I like it more and more. So a best bet for Serie A. I like Monza if they can climb to a quarter of a goal underdog on Saturday, but yet to see that. So it's not there. Torino, same story. Sassuolo probably not even at +1. Salernitana maybe at +2, but even then, I'm not sure. I do like Udinese getting a quarter. Cremonese getting a quarter seems like a market special. And then Bologna, I think I'd like +2. I'm not sure I'll get it. I do like Verona getting that +1 against some tired legs against AC Milan. No thanks to Sampdoria. And I like Lecce, but I think we'll get a half. So I don't really want to buy here at quarter just yet. So I'll take that full goal of insurance on LS Verona as +1 as my best bet for Italian Serie A. Moving to Germany, we have the Bundesliga starts on Friday with Schalke 04, Schalke 04, +1/2 at home to Hoffenheim. Schalke, I don't know if they've replaced their manager yet, but there was a lot of talk at the end of ESPN's broadcast about potentially replacing him. I feel like the German guys don't hold back on firing people, which is kind of hilarious. Schalke don't have much of an offense. They're going to be as aggressive as they can be and try to restrict space for Hoffenheim, who really have had a poor year. New manager came in from Zurich after a big surprise, winning the Swiss league. But it hasn't really gone well for him so far. I feel like Hoffenheim are a good team. They just haven't been getting results. So it kind of feels like I'm buying a little bit low or selling Hoffenheim a little low, if that makes sense. They are a better team. They have way more attacking options. They're going to go into a Veltins arena that's going to be really tough to play in. The crowd's going to be nuts, and that does matter and will buoy Schalke, who should put in a really good effort after how poorly they played at Leverkusen, and of course gave up a late goal to crush my under bet, which looked like a winner until the 90th minute. I'm not sure it deserved it the full time, but unfortunately, I'm just trying to take as many wins as possible because I feel like the bad beats just come far more frequently than the good ones. Over unders 2 3/4 on this one. I do think there's some interest in my head right now in that under 2 3/4, but Hoffenheim ultimately are a team that can score a bunch if they're playing well. They haven't been doing that just yet. I don't like that they haven't been starting Jorginho Rutter, who I think is a good young player, but I think is important and had a really good partnership going with Andre Kramaric. I lean to Schalke and I lean to the under, but I'm not sure that either of them are that strong as we speak. Moving to Saturday, Eintracht Frankfurt hosts Bayer Leverkusen. Frankfurt a pick'em at home with none of the juice. So all the juice on Leverkusen on the road. And if Frankfurt move to a quarter goal underdog, I will likely be on them. Still not a believer in Leverkusen. I don't trust their offense, which has been so good for so many years. I feel like they really need Florian Wirtz, and I don't even know if he's going to be back for the World Cup. Their defense still is not something I'm very scared of or interested in. I think there's a lot of motivation for Lucas Alario, the former Leverkusen player who kind of got frozen out of the team, now on the Frankfurt roster. But also don't know if he's necessarily starting because he's certainly not the preferred option for Frankfurt. I just don't necessarily agree with Leverkusen being a favorite on the road. So we'll see if this one hits a quarter. VfB Stuttgart then host Bochum, currently VfB, a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice. I don't know where the goals come from for Stuttgart. I got to say, they move to a full goal favorite. I will lean to Bochum hard until it gets there. I do like the under 2 3/4. It's pretty juiced right now, but Bochum with a really good performance last weekend. Goal after goal at the end to really crush my under. I mean, just another bad beat. I hate to complain, but that was a stone cold under. And then or betting Bochum. I mean, I guess it was nice that I had Bochum as well, but should have covered both of those matches or both ends of that game and did not. So that was disappointing. I don't believe in the Stuttgart offense. I don't think anyone does. And they're pretty expensive right now based on Bochum sitting bottom of the table. Though Bochum, I think, their performances have deserved better. Wolfsburg then hosts Mönchengladbach, currently a pick'em. Wolfsburg, not an offense I really trust. Gladbach coming off a big derby victory against Köln at home, though they played against 10 men for the last half of the match, so even more than that. So that really helped and kind of skewed things a little bit, I would say. Nothing for me to do really here at Pick'em, and no real interest in the total either. Werder Bremen that hosts Mainz, currently Werder Bremen a quarter goal favorite. All the juice on Mainz on the road, and I feel like Mainz were a public darling in the marketplace earlier this year, and then had some really bad results as said darling, and it's changed a little bit though. I feel like they're getting a lot of respect here at a quarter of a goal underdog on the road at Werder Bremen, who have been awesome to start the year. They were living by the late show, but that's improved quite a bit. They've throttled some teams. And mine's just, I don't really trust them to score goals at this point. Their defense doesn't seem as good. Their manager, Bo Svensson, was supposedly talked about potentially leaving the club and going to bigger teams, bigger, better places like even Brighton. That seems like that talk has stopped, especially because they hired De Zerbi, but also because mines have not been performing. I was hoping to get Werder Bremen. I mean, I wasn't expecting this even at a quarter, so I guess it wasn't really realistic for me to want to play them. I don't know that I'll ever play a plus money line when you lose if they draw, because that just, I mean, feel like a terrible, terrible way to lose. But there's a way for me to play Werder Bremen, maybe at Pick'em if this one keeps climbing or falling down by the time this one kicks off on Saturday morning. I do like the Werder Bremen home side. RB Leipzig then hosts Hertha Berlin, the nightcap on Saturday. It doesn't really feel like a rivalry. It seems like a pretty weak one to select, but here we are. Leipzig, a 1.25 goal favorite with almost all the juice. They're a better home team. They play really well at home. They crush teams at home. Hertha Berlin, they have played much better than the results have offered them this season, but the more and more I watch them, the more I worry about their center backs, and I really don't like them. They've looked like they're trying to kind of develop a new new center back partnership. I don't really like betting teams in tough venues on the road against teams who play really well at home that are really deep. They're going to put a lot of pressure on you working out a new center back pairing. But fading Leipzig getting more than a goal seems like a decent idea. I don't know that's enough for me right now, though, to say that, no, to say the least. Moving to Sunday, Cologne hosting Augsburg. They have a big chance to come back from a pretty poor performance in a big derby that I'm sure didn't help anyone, but they're also balancing the Europa Conference League and doing pretty well there from what it seems. So Cologne currently giving 3/4 of a goal right now to Augsburg, who you'll catch. Augsburg are coming in, playing fairly well considering where they were earlier in the season. They always beat Bayern at home, it seems, but got a good result after that, despite the market not really believing in them at Schalke, winning a match despite being down to 10 men that they controlled throughout. I think that was deserved. But Augsburg have a big problem here where I think both of their center backs are suspended and they don't have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of talent or depth. I do think that Urukai, if he's healthy, and Reece Oxford, if they're healthy, are decent replacements. I don't know that either of those are available. Either of those guys are available for this matchup. Over-under is 3, which is a lot for any sort of match with Cologne, who don't have much of an offense, really just crossing the ball into the box from Breno Smith on the right wing. But Augsburg's defense is never really something I want to trust or feel good about. And replacing 2 center backs is a big deal. Union Berlin then hosts Borussia Dortmund. Union, a quarter goal underdog at home, and Borussia with a really, really incredible comeback to draw in their Klassiker last weekend at home. Now they go on the road and have to kind of survive a new environment in a really tough place to play in Kopanik, I believe it's, I don't know how to pronounce it or spell it, but that's how Derek Ray says it. So there we go. Union really struggling in Conference League, in Europa League, but they had were a pretty big favorite to a Swedish club, Malmo, I believe, this week, just a couple of days ago. The legs are going to be in much different situation or shape versus Borussia Dortmund, though Borussia did have to go to Sevilla, if I'm not mistaken, and play in a little bit hotter of temperatures, to say the least, hottest mainland city in all of continental Europe versus Germany, where it was very cold where I was 3 weeks ago now, it feels like. I think from where I sit with this one, I like Union. I don't believe in Borussia Dortmund and Borussia's defense, nor in their offense, really. Certainly, Antonio Modeste will be a problem for them, and Union are going to have less rest here, but the crowd will buoy them quite a bit, and I like them at home getting that quarter of a goal. And last but not least, Bayern München hosting Sport Club Freiburg. Currently, Bayern, a 1.75 goal favorite, and it's a big number. Choking up that 2-0 lead against Dortmund will certainly get them motivated, fired up to not let that happen again. But I'm not sure they get to that number. Freiburg played them really tough last year. Certainly some players moved around from Freiburg, but I feel like there's nothing but confidence in that team considering where they've started the season and how they've played in the Europa League. I really like Christian Streich, as everyone knows. I am wearing a Freiburg jersey, so I'll say that so everyone can see. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, hit me, throw those 5 stars at me, or Spotify, throw those 5 stars. But ultimately, it's probably better you don't have to stare at me, because who wants to do that? So going through for a best bet in Germany, Schalke, I like getting that half of a goal. I also like under 2 3/4. Eintracht Frankfurt, I'd like to hit a quarter, but they're not there yet. Bochum, I want +1 or that under 2 3/4. Not there yet. Currently at 3/4 of a goal. Nothing to do in the Gladbach matches at the pick'em right now. Werder Bremen, I'd like it pick'em if that drops. Hertha Berlin, just not really my cup of tea at 1 1/4. Maybe if that climbs, even then, I'm not sure. Augsburg, I think you skip because of their center backs. I do like Union Berlin getting that quarter at home, and I do like Freiburg getting 1 3/4. But I'm pretty scared of Bayern Munich especially in that home venue where they can drop 7 on people. So for my best bet for Germany, I will take Union Berlin getting a quarter of a goal from Borussia Dortmund. Last but not least, we'll go to France, then we'll wrap it up. Recap the best bets from each country, and then give an ultimate best bet. We have Racing Club de Strasbourg currently hosting Lille, a quarter goal underdog, and this has climbed a little bit because they were pick'em earlier. I thought Lille was going to be a much bigger favorite here. Strasbourg finally got a win, but they've had a really bad start to the season, and it seems like their 3-headed monster, strike partnership, strike thruple, if you will, have not really performed this year, and their defense takes really bad yellow cards, red cards, second yellows that lead to reds. That scares me against Lille, who are really, really great. Despite selling off all their assets, it seems Lille's still pretty good. So I don't even know if Strasbourg getting a quarter at home. I like home dogs, as everyone knows. Crowd will be nuts, but I'm not sure that's enough for me right now as I speak about it, and that makes me feel a little bit icky. Moving to Saturday, Lorient hosting Reims. Currently, Lorient a quarter goal favorite. I mean, biggest surprise of the season. I think they're sitting second place in Liga. They're awesome, but I think from where I sit with Lorient, I don't really want to fade them. I don't know that they certainly don't. They're not this level of team. They're not this good. But I love their strategy. I love their style. Terramolfi is a terror. He's like frightening to play against. And Reims, I feel like they've deserved better than their performances have delivered. Oscar Garcia, I really like as a manager. Backed them a million times last year. Kept me solvent. But I feel like going into Lorient, only getting a quarter, it's respectful of Stade de Reims, but I'm not sure it's enough. Champagne men might go in there, but I think I'll probably want to watch and see that one. Lens then hosting Montpellier. Currently, Lens a 1 1/4 goal favorite. I think Lens have shown that they are a really great offense. It's a bigger number than I was expecting, but Montpellier are a bad defense, and there's no other way to slice it. I think over 3 is probably worth a look on this one if I had to pick something. But I don't, and I'll probably skip that one because just overs in soccer when you can end a match with no overtime scares me, to say the least. I do like, I guess that push on 3 is kind of nice, but anyway, moving to Sunday, Toulouse hosting Angers. Currently Toulouse a half a goal favorite with almost all the juice. I had kind of expected this number to be higher. The Ligue 2 champions Toulouse have looked like they are a mid-table, if not better side in Ligue 1, and Angers are not. Moving next to beyond that 6 a.m. range, which I probably will not be awake for, but Nantes, a quarter goal favorite to Brest. Nantes, fixture overload, crushing them off a big derby against Stade Rennais, and then having to face Sports Club Freiburg twice back-to-back on Thursdays. Not great. Feel like they're really struggling in 2 competitions, and so betting against them as a favorite, I haven't seen them as a favorite in a long time. I've certainly been learning the hard way backing them because they were really good to me last year, but their defense doesn't seem as good. They can't really score goals. Colomani leaving on a free was disastrous for their franchise and their club in general in the future. I like Stade Brest are certainly not the Pirates. They're a good defensive team. They seem to be very streaky. Sometimes they're really good offensively. Other times they are really not. And the nice part is a 0-0 draw does cover the spread here. Over under is 2 1/4, which seems a little bit high to me. I got to say, I don't know where goals come from in this matchup, which certainly points me to underdog and to the under. But I think with Nantes potentially having to rotate, playing on tired legs after a really just disastrous Europa League so far, I think that makes me like Brest more than the under, but I like both. Auxerre then hosts Nice. Currently, Auxerre a quarter goal underdog at home. With all the juice on Nice, I expect this one will climb, though Nice did have to play midweek. Auxerre just seemed like they started off the year hot and have been drifting closer and farther away towards relegation. Nice are definitely not great, but they have a lot more talent and a lot more money that matters in this sport. I guess I lean to the home dog, but I want to see it climb even higher, and I'm not sure that that's still going to be enough, even at 1/2. Troyes then hosting Ajaccio, currently a Stade Troyes, a quarter goal favorite at home, which is saying something because Troyes are not often a favorite. I'll put it that way. But Ajaccio, despite the big win at Marseille, no one saw that coming. But ultimately, the Corsican team are not great. Offense is very questionable, so they're going to have to keep this one as low scoring as possible. And Troyes do have some goals in their team, at least a lot more than Ajaccio do. So I feel like this number basically says these teams are even on a neutral. While I wouldn't want to give a lot with Troyes, I feel like the quarter seems a little short to me. So I think I'd want more on Ajaccio. Rennes then hosts Lyon in a big matchup. Surprisingly, in the early, I guess the middle window of French Ligue 1 matches on Sunday, but Rennes currently a quarter goal favorite. And it makes me lean to Lyon. Rennes have been getting a ton of results. They've been playing really well, getting wins. Whether they deserve them, I'm not sure. Lyon definitely have big questions about their defense. I don't really have questions about their offense, though. I feel like both these teams can score goals, so that over 2 3/4 might be more worth it. Though, as I said about overs, not really my cup of tea in this sport, unless neither team defends, which you could probably argue that here, at least on the Lyon side. I think Rennes are a little bit better, but still not great. At a quarter of a goal, I feel like that's just saying these teams are pretty equal. Lyon, with almost all the juice right now, says they're almost a little bit less than equal, and Lyon might be better. I'm not sure I agree with that fully, but I lean to the underdog on the road getting a quarter. Just not sure it's enough for me just there. Monaco then hosts Clermont Foot, and Monaco have been rolling. Monaco, a goal and a half favorite. Clermont Foot have not gotten a lot of respect from the marketplace this season. Don't know that that's changing here. I feel like I was backing them a lot early in the year, but I've kind of backed off of that and been on the back foot, if you will. Haha. But Clermont getting a goal and a half with all the juice right now. Maybe this falls to goal and a quarter. I don't think that'll happen. I think Monaco have been playing too well, but they did have to play in Europe midweek, and so that's not great, and will hurt their legs quite a bit. I also don't think the atmosphere at the Stade Louis II is very strong, or supposedly it's a really big stadium, so it's hard to see the crowd, but there's always empty chairs, and I don't think they make that big of a difference. Clermont Foot are nothing for me, getting that 1.5, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do it. And then last but not least, Le Classique, Paris Saint-Germain, PSG host Marseille. Currently, PSG a 1.5 goal favorite at home. And this kind of speaks a lot to the differences in these clubs. Marseille have kind of been bumbling around in Europa League, in the Champions League, which is a big step up for them, having not been in that competition for a while. They've been doing really well in Ligue 1, but then had a really big setback to Ajaccio that I think kept them from being top of the table. Very sad. PSG, though, their lines have been really soft lately, not getting a lot of respect from the marketplace. Messi's injury, I think he's going to be involved, but I'm going to guess off the bench in this one. Neymar and Mbappe, I mean, they're trying to keep their legs as much as possible for the World Cup as they are for Ligue 1, because there's not really a competition there, though it's certainly a lot closer than it was last year, where they'd pretty much locked it up already at this point. PSG's, their goal is to win the Champions League. That's certainly what they're trying to do. This is an important match for them, though, and I imagine that this is going to be a physical one that might see some yellows and probably a red. It's probably worth a bet to say that there would be a red card in Le Classique. But Marseille getting a goal and a half is a big number for PSG to offer. I feel like that's bigger, inflated. There's probably a lot of money coming in this one, and they want to get as balanced action as possible. But I like Marseille getting that 1.5. And I mean, it's going to be hard for me to avoid that one, because I really do like Marseille. I have a soft spot for them. I think they're strong. So going through France for my best bet, and then I'll run through one for each of the countries and then pick an ultimate best bet. I do like Strasbourg in that quarter today, but I feel like it's still a little cheap, even on the home dog. Reims getting a lot of respect, but that quarter is not enough for me. Montpellier, not enough. Angers, no thanks. Brest, I do like that quarter at Nantes. I do like Auxerre as a home underdog, but feel like I want a little more than that quarter. Ajaccio, basically the same as Troyes, according to the line right now. I don't necessarily agree with that. I do like Lyon a little bit. Clermont, not sure I want to get in the way of Monaco. And Marseille, I do like. But for my best bet for France, I will choose Stade Brest, the Pirates. Stade Brest 29 plus 1/4 at Nantes. I feel like the fixture overload's a big problem. And so to recap, the best bets from each of the countries, we have, as I just said, Brest plus 1/4 on the road in Ligue 1 in France. The German Bundesliga, I guess I'll just click on these and make sure I'm not screwing this up till I go through them. In the German Bundesliga, I'll do Union Berlin getting a quarter at home to Borussia Dortmund. In Italy, I would like to pick Torino, but they're not there yet, unfortunately. So I will pick Verona. That's that +1 at home against AC Milan. In Spain, I will do Real Valladolid getting 1/4 on the road at Espanyol. And in England, I will do AFC Bournemouth getting a half of a goal on the road at Fulham. For my best bet, I'm going to go with Stade Brestois, a Stade Brest or Brest, not the organ, but Brest plus 1/4 at FC Nantes. I just don't believe in what I've seen from FC Nantes, and they've not been a favorite for a long time. I don't think this is going to be a nice welcome for them back to a favorites situation. So that's 56 minutes. Thanks for coming. The real _ G Warner. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please leave 5-star reviews if you're watching on or listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you could, because if I get more there, I'll offer you more. And hopefully we get some good sponsorships coming through, some promotions, as I've been working that a little bit on the background as I try to never sleep ever. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.